Lulu says, should metaverse land be scarce? This is an interesting question that has been talked about a lot recently because of the Yuga Labs leak, which I guess we mentioned it earlier, but not got into specifics. But their investment deck, supposedly, again, got leaked a couple days ago. And on it, basically, they had plans to sell a bunch of digital land. And so now people are talking actively about it and about whether or not it should be scarce or not, and all that stuff. Why don't you take it away with your opinions?
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic. I had been thinking about it a little bit before this news as well, but this has definitely propelled it into the zeitgeist and the current conversation, public conversation. It seems like Metaverse land should not be scarce because it's relatively easy to just create more of it. It's just more data. And then you can give people the ability to build on it. But by making it scarce, you can sell it, raise money to build out the infrastructure. Like, yes, you can create infinite land, but there still needs to be an entity behind it creating the infrastructure upon which people can build on this land. Like,
if there's nothing to do on it, right, it doesn't matter that you can walk for 38 hours in each direction, right?
Right. But even just as much as like the software to create the land, the tools, the servers it's hosted on, the website, like all of that stuff, there needs to be some sort of entity, at least funding behind it. And so selling the land, I guess, is what most people have done and is just become one of the de facto things. But I wouldn't be surprised. I have heard about a couple of metaverses or metaverse land places coming out with models where there's effectively no limit, and they use like you get to the edge of the map, but it's never ending. You just
it's a globe or whatever, so you just end up on the other side, kind of thing.
No, I think it's flat, but it just like it generates. I don't know exactly, but it generates new stuff when you go into a new room. Like it's like, all right, this is
it. Just makes a new randomized
landscape or whatever it might be. And that seems like a cool concept as well. But coming back to what you said before about how there's value in there being stuff on the land, whether it's games or hubs and stuff.
That has me a little bit concerned about like these NFT worlds, specifically the one that's built on Minecraft, that people are very into now, and it is certainly, I would say, the hottest of the metaverses. People that are into it have been citing how big it is, how just one of them, for instance, is like bigger than all of Sandbox or something. Whereas Sandbox had previously been showing, one of ours is so much bigger than like Decentraland or what's the other one? Cryptovoxels. But at some point, like the scale with which they're saying that these NFT worlds are, and that they are, I say saying as if they could be lying. It is how big they are. But when it's that big, what is actually happening in any given area of it? Like, what is there to do or give it value that you couldn't accomplish in something 1/100th of the size? It almost seems like you have too much at that point until we're at least way further in the future and just way more activity is happening in these places.
Yeah. No, I think there's room for both models. Like you can have a metaverse where the land is scarce. I never know how to say it. And the company or entity platform is adding a lot of value to it, whether it's experiences, whether it's advertising to bring new people in, whether it's wearables, whatever it is. And that adds value to the entire ecosystem. And that's maybe justifies them charging for the land. And maybe they don't want to manage an infinite amount of land. Maybe they just want to have a smaller place. But you can also have ecosystems where it is infinite and anyone can come and build and do whatever they want. And maybe there's less oversight or less input from the team. And who knows where we're going to be in 5-10 years, what the landscape's going to be like. I think especially with some of like the more cutting edge stuff like virtual reality metaverses, I think that it just involves just labor and just knowledge on how to who can create this, and people have to work really hard at building it out, and they need to get paid somehow. And it's like, whether it's buying land or some other way, people need to get paid. It takes money to create these metaverses.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, I had actually a little bit of a Twitter discussion earlier where this, but they basically said, like, why is it supposed to be scarce, or what, like, why should digital virtual land be scarce and valuable? And then I said, like, well, if that's your argument, why should anything virtual have value and be scarce? The exact same thing. And this particular person had an Alien Friends NFT as their profile picture. So, like, you're asking why should the land be scarce, but why is the Alien Friends profile picture collection only 10,000? Why not mint 1 million of them and have every single combination of traits in the entirety of the project? And they basically just said that's a good question, and then, you know, some various people got into a discussion there. But this is just another one of those things where I feel like it sort of puts a microscope on the entire concept of NFTs and what's being built here. And the debate is interesting and definitely worth having. But,
yeah.
you know, like, you know, we know that when we're talking about these NFTs, the scarcity is artificial, in the sense that whoever's creating the smart contract is deciding how many of these things there are. And so, you know, in that sense, it is artificial, but it's also real, because that's the smart contract. You know, as long as it's immutable and on chain, is not changing. And so you just have to wonder and sort of analyze, was this number picked for a good reason? And, you know, has the subsequent time since that smart contract got put out there, has that reason been proven to be accurate or inaccurate? You know what I mean? And so that's sort of what we're going to have to wait and see. But I would also just to keep going on this for a little bit more. At this point, the amount of participants that we have in the space is just so small that we don't need all that land or for it to be all that big. And so right now, I would think that maybe it's either like there's just, you know, I've talked about with the profile picture project stuff as well. There's just so much supply right now to how much organic actual demand there is within the space. So we're going to need to have a lot more people onboarded and a lot more people building interesting, you know, experiences to actually have in these places to make the value realistic.